Welcome to another session of Aloka Dhamma discussion. As usual, today also we have in our studio Venerable Sandalankawe Kalanadasana Thero and Venerable Gampaha Sumanasa Thero with us. Last week we spoke about mental health issues, and we spoke about how important as individuals for us to have a developed and balanced mental condition, and how Buddhism simply and individually assist us in developing a good mental health, which will at the end enable us to, as individuals, to have a happy life and to have better families, better organization, and at the end to have a better society. Venerable Kalanadasana Thero quoted Majjhima Nikaya Sabbasa Sutta in last week and mentioned a wise person understand what things are suitable for attention and what things are unsuitable for attention, whereas an unwise person doesn't understand that. How Buddhist philosophy assists us in selecting the things which are suitable for us, which is the most difficult thing as lay people we are having.
There are two types of thoughts in us: ayoniso manasikara and yoniso manasikara. With respect to Venerable Gampaha Sumanasa Thero, Mr. Karagala, and dear devotees, here the ayoniso manasikara is the things which are unfit for attention. In Sabbasava Sutta it says, Yassa bhikkave dhamme manasikaroto anuppannova kamasavo uppajjati uppannova kamasavo pavaddati. Suppose your attention leads to develop the taints of sensual desires which is not suitable for you. If already arisen taints of sensual desires begin to increase due to your attention, that sort of attention also is not good for you. On the other hand, wise attention, yoniso manasikara, are the things which are suitable for attention. In Sabbasava Sutta, it says, if unarisen taints do not arise and the previously arisen taints are abandoned, that attention is good for your betterment. Yassa bhikkave dhamme manasikaroto anuppannova kamasavo na uppajjati uppannova kamasavo na pavaddati. Now here, what is taint, or so-called asava? During the harsh journey of samsara, because of our ignorance and lack of knowledge of Four Noble Truths, we were having repeated births and deaths. In each and every birth, we were having sensual desires and desire for the existence. These are called taints, or asava, repetitive practices which are very difficult to be uprooted. You see, Mr. Karagala, when people make alcohol, they preserve the initial mixture for a prolonged period for the purpose of fermentation. Likewise, these sensual desires and desires for existence have been fermented in our minds throughout the samsara. Even in this life, we are fostering these asava or taints, and we will be repeating this until we are liberated from the samsara. If I explain this philosophy further, according to the Sabbasava Sutta, there are three categories of taints. In Pali, they are named as Kamasava, Bhavasava, and Avijjasava. Kamasava is the taint of sensual desires, and Bhavasava is the taint of being. where the avijjasava is the taints of ignorance. In day-to-day life, what we are doing, either we are attached to living beings or non-living things. In addition, we also like to receive the same or more in next life. Now, here simply, the attachment to the living beings and to the non-living things is due to karmasava. Expectation for another life due to bhavasava, and the underlying taint in about two, that means on the karmasava and bhavasava both, that is the avijjasava. Avijjasava means the lack of knowledge of Four Noble Truth. You see, Mr. Karagala, due to the taints of sensual desires, karmasava, and taint of beings, so-called bhavasava, one may practice meritorious deeds, willing to be born in God realm or Brahma realms. In Sinhala we call Divyaloka and Brahmaloka. Here the person fosters the samsara. This will generate the karma, which has the potential to give a new birth. Once born, what happens next? It follows soka, parideva, dukkha, so on, whichever the realm the person is born. By doing bad deeds or demerits, a person will be born in woeful realms, the hell, which is full of suffering. I would say, Mr. Karagala, if a person's thoughts influence in developing the above mentioned three types of taints, then that sort of attention is unsuitable. And if there is any attention which suppresses above three types of taints, that can be identified as a good sort of attention.
Well, so it is very clear that why do we pay attention for the things which is unfit for us. That is, as explained by Venerable Kalyanadasana Thero, mainly because of sensual desires, asava or taints. But managing that sensual desire as lay people is one of the most difficult things we would have, or we are having. But before getting into that how to manage part, I would like to ask from Venerable Sumanawansa Thero, so Venerable Kalyanadasana Thero mentioned about three types of taints. I would like to know what are the negative impacts of these three taints.
With respect to Venerable Sandalankawe Kalyanadasana Thero, Mr. Karagala, and dear devotees, Venerable Kalyanadasana Thero previously mentioned about three types of taints: asavas, taints of sensual desires, taints of being, and taints of ignorance. In Pali, kamasava, bhavasava, and avijjasava. As we know, these are things that are unfit or unsuitable for attention, and are taught and practiced by unwise people, whereas wise people show their attention to the faults of these taints, asavas. If you have the taints of sensual desires, upon death you will be reborn in one of the four hells, namely Naraka, Tirachana, Peta, and Asura. You will be blocked from being able to achieve stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and even Nibbana, enlightenment. In Pali, Sovan, Sakurdagami, Anagami, and Arihat. Dear devotees, if you have taints of being, you will never be able to stop the cycle of rebirth, samsara. You will be reborn in hell, and your path to attain Nibbana will be blocked. Finally, dear devotees, if you are with the taints of ignorance, you won't be able to understand the Four Noble Truths. and it will prevent you from being able to understand the preachings of the Lord Buddha. The negative impacts of the previous taints also applies to these taints as well. Mr. Karagala, a wise person, understands this and does not pay attention to asavas and focuses only on the negative impacts of them. If we are able to do this and pay attention to only what is suitable for us, it will not only help for our supramundane life, but our mundane life as well. For example, if we only pay attention to what is suitable for us in our mundane life, our focus will increase and in turn help us in our studies and work. And when we look at our supramundane life, since our focus increases, we can easily attain concentration in our meditation, which will eventually help us in attaining Nibbana. And upon attaining Nibbana, our cycle of rebirth, samsara, will stop.
So, a lack of focus as a parent is one of the biggest issues I'm having, and I've seen in the kids, and lack of focus in our teams as corporate executives is one of the biggest issues we have in our corporate entities. So as mentioned by Venerable Gampa Sumanwansa Thero, if we understand the negative impact of things or the sensual desires or asava, we definitely would understand the negative impacts of these things. And if we know those negative impacts, we will definitely be very careful and in doing things which are not suitable, and we will definitely select the things which are very important for us as individuals, to our families and to our organization and to our society. That will make a better family, better society and a better world. So we spoke about the Buddhists as Buddhists, how to select suitable things, and about the three taints, asava, and negative impact of these taints. Venerable Kalana Dasra Thero, as a Buddhist, what should be our strategy to move away from these taints and selecting the things which we should pay attention only?
Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, here the Buddhist strategy can be used to abandon asava is categorized into 6 sections. Atti bhikkave asava samvara pahatabba. Atti asava patisevana pahatabba. Atti asava adivasana pahatabba. Atti asava parivajjana pahatabba. Asava vinodana pahatabba. And atti asava bhavana pahatabba. Out of these 6 strategies, methodologies, the first one is the samvara pahatabba. Mr. Karagala, when an adolescent boy sees a girl, let's assume that he will have pleasant feelings about that girl. The following sequence of events will take place in his mind. What are they? First, his feelings leads to craving, and next the craving will lead to seeking. Seeking of that girl eventually leads to lustful desires. Lustful desires lead to attachment. Here the attachment eventually leads to guarding of possession. And because of the guarding of the possession, ultimately he takes up weapons and he quarrels, argues with others, fights, tells lies, and does other evil actions. It is given in Mahanidana Sutta in long discourses, Digha Nikaya. When a person put himself into danger, that is because he couldn't restrain his eyes at the first place. Now the I should be restrained by the person so that unnecessary inputs can be avoided without getting distracted. In the same manner, all the sensory organs shall be restrained. That is how you can abandon the fostering of kamasava using the strategy of samvara pahatappa. Now, next strategy which we can use to abandon the arising of the taints while satisfying the basic needs is called patisevana pahatappa. In order to understand this strategy, I will give you a very popular example called Putta Mansa given in Samyukta Nikaya. There, a man with his wife and their infant had to pass a desert during their journey. Half of the way, all of their food and water finished. Then they decided to sacrifice one of their lives to be used as food, so that the other two can survive. At last, the infant died whilst the husband and wife were debating. So they started to cross the desert, eating the flesh and drinking blood of that infant. Now, Mr. Caragala, imagine about the feelings they had about the food. Are they tempted to eat the flesh of their own child? No. Is that edible? No. That is just raw, uncooked meat. The sole purpose of this food is to make sure they can survive. You should take your meals or alms with an understanding of the real reason and need of having that food, but not to satisfy your craving for the food. In the same way, other needs and requirements also should be used with similar knowledge. For example, clothes are used for the protection and to cover the body. Housing, also called senasana, is for the purpose of protection and to calm the mind, and also the medicines for the protection from diseases and getting rid of illnesses. Now, next is the adivasana pahatappa, tends to be abandoned by enduring. You see, Mr. Caragala, cold, heat, hunger, harsh environmental conditions, and sometimes ill-spoken, unwelcomed words, and also bodily pains. These taints should be abandoned by enduring. There's no other way. Once a bhikkhu in ancient times was subjected to a problem of gas in the stomach. The Thero was tossing and turning himself, unable to bear up the pain. Then a colleague monk who noticed this and said, "A bhikkhu is the one who has patience." The affected bhikkhu said, "Yes, Bhante," and lied down quietly. The illness became grave and the Thero's stomach burst. The bhikkhu bore up the pain with patience, practiced insight meditation, and he could become a non-returner, anagami, Aryan, and passed away. Now you see, dear devotees, there is no other way to abandon these taints. The only way is adivasana pahatappa, the enduring.
Out of the 6 strategies of moving away from these taints, Venerable Kalanadasana Thero explained 3 strategies. I would like to ask from Venerable Sumanasa Thero, as Buddhists, how can we practice the other 3 strategies.
Mr. Karagala, if I explain Parivajjana Pahatabba tends to be abandoned by avoiding, a wise person is someone who avoids dangerous animals like elephants, dogs, snakes, and poisonous insects. He also avoids places which could harm him like cliffs, cesspits, and sewers. But not only that, very importantly, he avoids bad friends. Because having good friends, Kalyana Mitta, is very important in our path to achieve enlightenment. For example, suppose you wander around in a liquor shop. Even though you are a teetotaler, others might assume that you are a drunkard. If you hang around in such places with bad friends, they might force you to do evil deeds such as drinking alcohol. Because of this, a wise person avoids bad friends and unsuitable places. The second strategy is, or the fifth strategy is, Vinodana Pahatabba, which is similar to the right effort in the Noble Eightfold Path. This comes under Virya Sambojjhanga and Pahana Sanya. In the Girimananda Sutta, in Anguttara Nikaya, the Lord Buddha has stated, Uppannang kama vitakkang, vyapada vitakkang, vihingsa vitakkang, uppannuppanne papake akusale dhamme, nadivaseti pajahati vinodeti byanti karoti anubhavang gameti. Here, a bhikkhu reflecting wisely does not tolerate sensual desires. He abandons them, removes them, and annihilates them. One monk learned Kamatahan meditation in the presence of the Lord Buddha and went to a forest for meditation. To the same forest, a woman came to meet up with her lover. She was waiting, but the man did not turn up. Then she saw the meditating monk. Having excited with lustful feelings, she went in front of the monk, exposed her body, and laughed in an ill-behaved manner, hoping to attract the monk. The sensation spread all over the Thero's body. Fortunately, at that time the Lord Buddha saw that particular monk, induced by a woman's adulterous actions. There the Lord Buddha recited this stanza to him, saying, Ramaniyani aranyani yattana ramati jano vitaraga ramissanti nate kama gavesino. The places that do not attract those who seek sensual happiness are the places that attract the hearts of sages. Having heard this, the bhikkhu became an arhat. Dear devotees, lastly are the 10s to be abandoned by developing bhavana pahatabba. Here, a bhikkhu reflecting wisely develops mindfulness and 7 enlightenment factors, saptabojjhanga, namely sati, dhammavijaya, virya, priti, passaddhi, samadhi, and upekka. Dear devotees, in conclusion, these are particular strategies to be used in suppressing different categories of taints. What you should do is first identify the nature of taints in you. Then apply the relevant method to abandon them and culture your mind so that you will be able to live happily and peacefully.
So it is very clear that sequence of event, doing bad things or the lustful things, is definitely starting from the desires or taints. As explained, if we clearly understand the negative impact of these taints, by practicing simple, practical Buddhist philosophy, we will be definitely able to abandon these taints and will be able to pick the right things and develop a right mental health. and at the end we'll be able to have a happy and a peaceful life. So I believe we had a very insightful and a practical session as always today also, and I would with great respect thank on behalf of JAYA TV and all of our listeners, Venerable Sandalankawe Kalandasana Thero and Venerable Gampa Sumanasa Thero for being here and sharing their noble knowledge about the Buddhism and Buddhist practices with all of us, and may Noble Triple Gems help both of you, sir, to continue your noble work.